Hi, hope you're well wherever you are. It's Mark here. Very short tip today, but it's probably one of the most important ones that I'm going to cover. And the reason for it, it really does affect how we control the golf club. So what am I going to be talking about? Well, it's how we put our hands on the club and how we grip the club. The reason being, why is it so important? Well, it's our only contact with the golf club, and it's our only means, our hands are our only means of actually controlling what the club and what the club face are going to do during the swing, and especially at the moment of truth, which is impact. So, so important. Now, one of the things which I've noticed over the years, and I don't know if you find this too, is that the stuff we learn first, and the grip is one of the first things that we learn. Certainly I did many years ago, and it's one of the first things that I teach. When you hold the club correctly, you learn to do it. It does not that difficult to do, and we get to do it, and that's fine. But over time, what tends to happen is the things that we learn first off tend to be the things that we forget first as well, or we just maybe we assume that we know it, and therefore we don't really maybe spend enough time on it. So all of the great professionals over the years, all of the top, that grip is one of the fundamentals that they're always checking week in, week out. But I think that, for a lot of us, it's easy just to get a little bit complacent, and we want to work on, maybe what we think is more difficult stuff or more complicated stuff that, we've heard about, we've read about, and we take our eye a little bit off the basics. So today's session is just how we're going to put hands on the club, and I'm going to start with that. Right, so what do we do first? What's the most important thing about how we put our hands on the club? So I was chatting to one of my friends yesterday, who's a client of mine as well, remained nameless, but we were talking about setup, and I was sort of joking with him because he tends to be a little bit tight over the ball, arms and hands and shoulders. And I said, well look, you can't really have a relaxed swing if you've got a really tight, stressed out start position. It's just not going to work. Just those two things just don't match, and we sort of joked about that. So really, how we get our hands on the club, and not just position but also pressure, is really fundamental to how we're going to move the club through the swing. So first things first, what I like to see in terms of setup is to try to get as much natural positions as we can before we start. Now what I mean by that is, your body is going to, your arm, if you just stand up straight as I'm doing here, your arm's going to hang in a certain way, and this is going to be where your body's most relaxed. So it makes sense, and if if I throw my arms down 100 times, throw this left arm, it's going to go the same place every time. It's not going to suddenly go somewhere else. So if it's going to go there, and that's easy for the body to do, it's repeatable, and I don't have to think about it, it just wants to go there. It makes sense that if I position the club in my hands at this point, and just put my hands in here, then that's going to be my most natural, comfortable position for my arm and my hand to be in. So what does that mean? Well, if I'm gripping here, my body, when I'm swinging the club at maybe 80-90 miles an hour, my arm wants to come back to that same position, which means I get the club face back to being square. So what I'll notice here, I don't know if you see this clearly on the camera, there's a V between the thumb and the forefinger. We probably might have seen that 1,000 times in different books and videos, but it really is a fundamental. And that should be pointing somewhere between the collarbone and the right shoulder here. So now, right hand, we're looking for the right hand slightly different. So if I bring my left hand into the camera here, you'll see it's more or less, it's a cross bit slightly into the palm of the hands, the sort of base of the fingers rather than the fingers itself. So into the base of the hand, it goes sort of across at a slight diagonal, and the thumb, my left thumb, is down the right hand side. Now for left-handed golfers, obviously it's you start with the other hand and just reverse this, but this is up towards between the collarbone and the right shoulder. The right hand, I've actually drawn on my hand here, hopefully that shows up, is more into the fingers. So it's actually sort of middle two joins of my little Star Trek thing here, middle two joins of the middle two fingers there, and the other fingers out here, so end joint here and lower joint here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the club, just going to get those joints here again, into the fingers. Now I'm using an overlapping grip, to get my hands together. Now, the reason I like that, it gets the hands close together, so they're sort of working together as one unit. You can, if you prefer, use a two-handed grip. I've tried that and used that and had some success with that, and that's fine. That gives you a little bit more speed, a little bit more power. It's slightly more difficult to control the club face, but it's whatever works for you. Or you can use an interlocking grip. It's one of the 3 standard grips that you could use. So my preference is that just feels comfortable to me. That's how I've played golf for the last how many years it is now. But it gets the hands together. Okay, so position wise, slightly more into the base of the fingers with the left hand, that V up towards between the collarbone and the right shoulder. Right hand goes on into the fingers, and again you'll see there's another V here. Again, it's pointing in a similar sort of place. Again, the arms can be relaxed, it comes on, and there we are. Now, this is the next bit, which is again often overlooked, because the position of your hands is one thing, the amount of pressure you have in your hands is the other. And this needs a little bit of experimenting to get the best out of it and just try and get the feel for it. But I'll give you my sort of take on it, and then it's a question of going and practicing it. So if we imagine that if we had a scale of 0 to 10 scale in terms of grip pressure, 0 would be, well, the club falls out of our hands, there's no pressure on there, and sort of 10 would be gripping as hard as we possibly can, almost not letting any blood flow into the fingers, knuckles going white, and almost squeezing our hand into the grip itself. So that would be almost as tight as we could go. Now, if we grip as tight as we can go, what you'll notice is, if you do that for any length of time, even a few seconds, your wrists will become tight, but your forearms, your shoulders, and your upper arms, and your back even will all become very stiff, and you won't be able to move smoothly from there. So, grip pressure, and again, you'll find what works best for you. But as a starting point, I would say if 10 is the maximum and sort of 0 is letting the club out of your hands, is to experiment, just trying to grip with different grip pressures, and maybe try sort of a 3 or a 4. So you've got just about control of the golf club, but there's a lot of freedom in the wrists and the hands, so you can get that club moving freely. When we do get to go and hit some golf balls outside, we can actually try different grip pressures and see what works for us. So that's really, really useful, because sometimes our grip, not just our grip position changes over time because we get a little bit complacent, but also our grip pressure can change over time, because again, if you're getting a little bit tight, a little bit stressed on the course, you might grip tighter, and then your performance goes down. A simple change, not a swing change, just a simple change, just softening the hands a little bit, just by having a bit of an awareness of what works for you best. And it might be that the grip pressure needs to be a 2 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10. I don't know, it's your swing, but somewhere in that range for most people works. If you practice different pressures of grip and you can get that awareness, you've got a very quick fix when you're on the course. If it's not quite working, you can just focus in on that and start to release the club hand again, get the club moving and swinging correctly. So hopefully that helps you. Another quick tip coming in the next few days as well. So until then, I should say, stay safe, keep practicing, keep the swing going. When we come out of this, the other side of it, it'd be great if we get on the golf course and we've got some of these skills even better than when we stopped playing a month or so ago now, and then we can enjoy it even more than before. So until then, stay safe and see you next time.